everyone, and welcome to SUNUP. I'm Lyndall Stout. We begin today with a discussion with our Precision Nutrient Management Specialist, Dr. Brian Arnall. Brian, I understand there's a shortage of nitrogen. Can you give us an idea of what's happening?
Yeah, basically a lot of things just hit the market at one time. One, we can just talk about the winter storm. The winter storm that we went through in Oklahoma and Texas really put a drain on the natural gas reserves, which natural gas is a really important part of the nitrogen fertilizer creation process. And then we have an increased demand across the corn belt, an expected increase in planting in corn. So we're really seeing this demand for nitrogen plus a lack of resources to make it kind of coming in all at once when we need it in the wheat belt and they need it in the corn belt.
Give us an idea of how nitrogen is made. I know there's many steps to it. Can you boil that down?
Yeah, nitrogen is made, nitrogen is amazing that it's actually made from the atmospheric nitrogen that we have, the N2 gas. And so the short and sweet of it is it takes a lot of heat and pressure to take that N2 gas in the atmosphere and turn it into a fertilizer source. And of course, we're doing that with natural gas. So we use natural gas to create the heat, create the pressure, and that process creates anhydrous ammonia. And from that output of anhydrous ammonia, then we create urea, we create urea ammonium nitrate or liquid nitrogen. So really all of our nitrogen sources, including the ammonia that goes into diammonium phosphate fertilizers and MAP fertilizers, it all comes from the Haber-Bosch and that creation of anhydrous ammonia.
Give us an idea of what producers should do, because here we are, springtime, heavy use, and it could be a little bit before this is remedied. What kind of guidance do you have?
Yeah, right now there's a lot of decisions being made. I've talked to producers who've pre-bought and they're looking at, do I spend my nitrogen on my wheat crop or do I save it to pre-plant my sorghum crop? And that's really a tough decision. You have to look at it almost a field by field basis. I want to say if you're trying to get a hold of nitrogen for your wheat and you might be limited in your resources for nitrogen, let's look at what the crop looks like. Let's take a step out in the field and see, do I see deficiencies in any of my fields? Those are the fields I want to get on first. As far as the pre-plant for our summer crops, be looking at sources, be making plans to say, okay, I may not get it down now for a pre-plant. So do I have the capability to do in-season application for my sorghum and corn? If not, how do I get to the point that I can go in season and side dress my sorghum and corn crop?
Would it be a good idea to talk through some of this with your county ag educator too?
Absolutely. Visit your extension office, see what they have to say, utilize them for their experiential learning and look at, what are your opportunities in the marketplace, what has more value too. Maybe we look at changing that input into the sorghum crop as far as that value, or the wheat crop. It's all about, it's going to be person by person and field by field basis on how we manage this, but we have time. We're not in extreme hurt yet, but we need to be moving forward and making those decisions right now.
Okay, well, thanks for getting us up to speed on the situation and keep us posted on the latest developments.
Good morning, everyone. Wesley is off today, so I will be in the driver's seat, and we're going to take a look at our drought situation, our 30-day rainfall, and then a look towards the future. So let's get right to it. Well, we start off with the drought monitor, and we have great news for southwest Oklahoma. We finally got some movement on the drought picture in that area. We got rid of the severe drought finally, so now we're just dealing with moderate drought over the southwestern quarter up into west central Oklahoma. So good news there. Not so good news, unfortunately, for south central Oklahoma, where we now have a larger area of severe drought and a much larger area of moderate drought in that region, and also surrounded by abnormally dry conditions, an area that's considered to be in danger of going into drought if it doesn't get significant rainfall. If we take a look at the 30-day rainfall from the Mesonet, we can see why that south central region is under duress from drought. We do see that area in far south central Oklahoma along the Red River, less than an inch of rainfall. Much of the south central up into central Oklahoma region is dealing with those same kind of totals. Also, much of the north central and northwest Oklahoma did get a good bout of rainfall over the last 30 days, and even out into the western panhandle. Just not enough yet to put a dent in that drought out in the western panhandle, where it's been a much longer period of dry conditions. If we look at the departure from normal, this is the actual inches below normal for much of south central and western parts of the central region, also across the eastern parts of Oklahoma. We do see deficits basically from an inch to about 2.5 inches, but it greatly increases as we get down in south central Oklahoma, where that drought increased this week on the drought monitor map. The percent of normal map for that same period, so this is compared to what they would expect to get, the percentage wise. Again, you can see those areas across central down into south central Oklahoma, scattered across really the southeastern half of the state, 40 to less than 30% of normal over the last 30 days. But over across the northwestern half of the state, basically northwest of I-44, we do see greater than normal rainfall amounts, and that's certainly good news for that part, but we do need that rainfall down in south central Oklahoma. As we go into next week, from the Climate Prediction Center, the precipitation outlook, we do see greatly increased odds of above normal precipitation centered right here in the southern plains in Oklahoma, and of course we are getting deeper into the spring season, so anytime we get above normal rainfall, that means a little bit more during spring. So let's hope for that, especially down in that south central region where they do need that rainfall. Now we can go out to the April through June period from the Climate Prediction Center. We do see from the temperature outlook greatly increased odds of above normal temperatures across the entire region, including Oklahoma, which wouldn't help any drought conditions. But then when we get to the precipitation outlook, we see increased odds of below normal precipitation, especially across southwest Oklahoma and the Panhandle. So it won't help those drought conditions there. We are coming up into the full spring season, which is the wettest time of the year for much of the state, except for the Panhandle, which is later into the summer. So we can get some really generous rains to help the drought picture, at least if we're lucky. That's it for this time. We'll see you next time on the Mesonet Weather Report.
One of my favorite subjects to do out here at the North Range is the feed efficiency. Dave, you've actually have some data on the feed efficiency of some of the cattle out here.
We do. We've been working on this project now for a little over 2 years. We've just, have improved our capability to study efficiency in cows, or forage intake efficiency. That's probably what's unique about our project, is we have the capability of measuring individual cow forage intake. The other thing that we do that's somewhat unique is we measure milk production, and we try to measure it about every 30 days, obviously during lactation. But and then when we measure milk production on these same 40 cows, we also get the content. So we know we've got some cows that have 3% butter fat in their milk, and we've got some cows that have 8 or 9% butter fat in their milk. People just don't get that information, and those are all important pieces to cow efficiency.
So with all of those variables in there, what's some of the information that you've been able to glean from those piles of data?
Oh, we've learned a lot, and anticipate that we'll continue to do that. One simple example, the assumed influence of milk yield on forage intake is for every 1 more pound of milk produced in a day, a cow should consume about 2/10 more pound of forage. We've discovered that number, at least in the cattle we've researched so far, is more like 0.3 to 0.35. So the other thing that we find in every group of cattle every time we do one of these is we find just enormous variability. The last time we measured these animals during lactation, we found one cow, for example, that produced an enormous amount of milk and gained body condition through lactation. Another cow, approximately the same size, produced about half the amount of milk and lost body condition. But here's the important part of that discovery, is that those 2 cows consumed about the same amount of feed.
Interesting.
So the cow that produced the enormous amount of milk and gained body condition is pretty special.
And that information long term could actually impact the way a herd in Oklahoma is selected in some ways.
Well, we hope so. We hope that that's our end goal,
Right.
is to get to where we can help the genetics folks identify those animals without having to go through all this expense and labor and so on. And so we're looking at ways to help identify those animals quicker, maybe cost effectively.
And of course, you're only 2 years into this study. There's so much more to come with this.
Yeah, we'll hope to have more clear answers on where the one relates to the other.
Right.
We are working on that and have some good initial data on that topic. And yeah, it's really fascinating.
Okay, well, thank you very much, Dr. Dave Lalman, beef cattle specialist here at Oklahoma State University.
Good morning, Oklahoma. This is Mark Johnson, and as we think about breeding season being just around the corner and bull turnout coming up soon, this week we continue to talk about considerations on bulls as we look ahead, and specifically some of the modern genetic tools that are available to us to select for calving ease. So when is calving ease important? Typically, if we are thinking about breeding up a set of heifers that will be calving out next spring, calving ease is an economically important trait to us, as we don't usually see quite as much calving difficulty, or dystocia as we commonly refer to it, in mature cows. There is documentation that heifers or cows that don't encounter dystocia are going to do a better job of raising that particular calf. They're going to return to fertile heat sooner in the breeding season and accordingly calve earlier in that next calving season the following year. And so avoiding dystocia is a key to long-term profitability. And we're best off to base selection on genetic prediction in the form of EPDs when we can. So if calving ease is a selection priority, we've got some fundamental EPDs we can look at. First of those is a calving ease direct, or a CED EPD. These are usually reported where higher numbers indicate a greater likelihood of unassisted births. Let's take, for example, we've got two bulls here. Bull A has got a calving ease direct of, let's say, 17. Bull B has got a calving ease direct of 8. Well, there's 9 units of difference between them. That is indicating that Bull A, or both bulls being mated to an equal set of virgin heifers, we are 9% less likely to have to pull a calf that gets sired by Bull A. So a higher CED increases the likelihood of an unassisted birth if we are mating bulls to heifers that are going to be having their first calf. Second EPD we can look at is the birth weight EPD. This is one that has been around for 30-some years. It kind of predicts what it sounds like it would, just the size of the actual calf at the point they're born. We know if we select for lower birth weight EPDs, we're going to see smaller calves at birth that should be born easier. An example would be if we've got a bull setting here that is a 1 and we're comparing him to a bull that is a 6, 5 pounds difference, we would expect that bull with a birth weight EPD of 1 to sire calves that are about 5 pounds lighter in the next calving season. A next generation EPD we can use to select for calving ease, if we're in a situation where we're going to be keeping daughters out of a particular bull, we think of this next generation and kind of a maternal EPD. It is called maternal calving ease. What does this one predict? It is predicting the likelihood of an unassisted birth when a bull's daughters are having their first calf. Again, I'll use an example. If we've got one bull setting here with a maternal calving ease of 15, another bull setting here that's got a maternal calving ease of, say, 6, 9 units of difference, we mate those two bulls to an equal set of yearling heifers and watch those heifers calve out. We're 9% less likely to have to pull that first calf out of the bull with the maternal calving ease of 15. So those are the selection tools that are available to us as we think about first generation and next generation selection for calving ease. And a couple weeks down the road, we'll be talking more about the EPDs that predict different aspects of maternal performance. I look forward to talking to you again on Cow Calf Corner on SUNUP. Thank you.
Spring's right around the corner, which means alfalfa weevil is on the move. So Kelly, where are you starting to see alfalfa weevil?
Well, since the last cold weather spell we had back in February, we had some really cold temperatures. But since then, the adult alfalfa weevil has been active, laying eggs. And so now we're starting to see some of the accumulative degree days. Most everywhere in the state is at 150 degree days. And so now we're looking at that trigger point. That's our trigger point to start looking and start scouting where we see some consistent egg hatch and development in alfalfa weevil larvae. And so the progression usually moves from south to north. So we're looking at, of course, the northern part of the states are just now reaching the 150 mark. So we're looking at not much activity. Center part of the state, we're looking at 200 plus, so minimal size larvae. But down south, we're looking at 350 plus degree days. And so we're definitely starting to see some increased activity, some size that we're kind of concerned about, and also the fact that we're starting to see some damage. So some of those folks down there will be looking at some spray options probably later this week.
So if you mentioned the cold spell that we had, that the big winter storm. Were you expecting that to have any impact at all on alfalfa numbers?
It could have had some effect with the extreme cold temperatures on the eggs that have been laid in the stem, but alfalfa weevil, like other insects, has a cold weather mechanism that can, they're pretty well protected. We didn't really expect to see a drastic drop off in numbers, but this year because of that, and it's proven true because we're starting to see some definite activity.
So in regards to scouting when they're actually out in the field, how does this differ from, how you might scout in a wheat field for fall armyworm?
Well, if a grower's going out and just scanning his field, walking through his field, he might take about 30 random samples, and a rule of thumb is about if you collect or look at 30 stems, if you are averaging one and a half larvae per stem, then you're looking at pretty close to threshold.
So, and you actually have some new research that you've been working on in regards to insecticide resistance in alfalfa weevil.
Yes. In the last couple of years of our research, we've shown a definite decrease in efficacy in some of our products, especially our pyrethroids, more specifically lambda-cyhalothrin. I've got a current report or a fact sheet on that that was produced last year, 7102. And it talks about resistance in alfalfa and things we can do. We're hoping to be able to identify where it's at, and if it's going to be spreading throughout the states, or throughout the state, it's look to identify the spread and hope to identify some strategies to help mitigate the economic loss.
All right, thanks, Kelly. If you'd like some information on the fact sheets that Kelly mentioned, go to our website, SUNUP.okstate.edu.
Past few months, we've had a lot of excitement when it comes to prices of the commodities. Kim, that excitement's starting to wane a little bit.
I think most of the excitement's out of the market for a while. You look at wheat prices, go back in February, you could forward contract for harvest delivery for $6.50 a bushel. Right now it's around $5.95, something like that. Corn, you can forward contract harvest delivery, $4.59. That's down from $4.70, so it's 11 cents down, not much there. Milo went down from late March to $5.65 down to $5.56, 9 cents there, not much. Soybeans, $11.73 for harvest delivered beans right now, down from $11.92. So you don't see much going on in the markets. I think wheat's more at risk than the corn, milo, and soybean prices. I think we may have support there. They're probably going to wallow around, but wheat, I think wheat still got some more downside pressure.
You talked about the forward contract prices in there. Other than that, what should producers be watching for whenever they're gauging the risk?
Well, I think you can look at the futures market prices. You look at the Kansas City contract, the May contract at 602, the July contract is only 607, only 5 cents carry between May and July. The September contract, 611, the Dees contract, 619. So you've got a 10, 11 cent spread between July and December. So not much expected on price movements. However, if you'll look at what's being offered on the export market, Dreyfus offered Pakistan wheat for April delivery at $8.82, May delivery at $8.95, that's plus 13 cents, June delivery at $9.17, that's plus 35 cents, but July delivery at $8.65, down 17 cents, and if you look at August, $7.75, down $1.03.
Wow.
So if you look at what's going on out in the export market, you've got prices holding relatively good through June into July, but as you get out in the August and later period, they're offering significantly lower prices. So we looked at the futures, not much change there, so that changes in the basis. So they're looking at that basis deteriorating after we clear the U.S. harvest.
So what's driving all of those factors?
Well, if you look at what's going on, it's demand around the world. That's why we've got prices up to the level. A lot of things going on in China, especially if you look at China and corn. The Chinese millers and producers are substituting barley, wheat, other grains for corn. And so that's kind of stabilized your corn prices. You've still got the African swine flu problems in China. The meal prices have fallen down. That's impacted soybeans. And then you've got, where China quit buying U.S. corn, but the corn exports remained relatively strong from other countries. So there's a lot going around the world, and demand right now is what's driving prices.
Okay, well, thank you very much, Dr. Kim Anderson, grain marketing specialist here at Oklahoma State University.
The month of March is Women's History Month. Today, SUNUP's Curtis Hare takes us to Logan and Rogers counties to see how OSU Extension educators are making a difference.
Fridays are typically looked at as a wind-down day to the end of a very long work week. But for Logan County Extension Ag and 4-H educator Andy Turner, Fridays are anything but that.
We have a lot of our county 4-H contests on Saturdays, so we still get quite a few phone calls, so try and answer those and return those phone calls as they come in.
The only morning breaks come in the form of redirecting vaccine appointments to the health department next door.
I have an appointment for taking the vaccine.
The door on the east end of the building.
The pressure of serving a community comes with the territory for county educators. But when you're only 5 months into a job that was vacant for 6 months prior, the pressure of acting as both the ag and 4-H educator during a pandemic is daunting.
I am essentially a one-woman show or a circus, depending on the day of the week. You asked me that question. Please don't put that on air. My mom will kill me. Managing all the new information is kind of hard. It's a lot to take in, and we have a pretty strong 4-H program that I'm trying to keep going. And one of the biggest obstacles I think I have faced is that in a new job, and especially in my role in delivering information to the community and to the producers, is how do I get that to them? Co-ops aren't open, so we're not hanging out drinking coffee, so I can't go in there and, hey guys, I'm Andy, I'm new. Here's some information about it.
About 120 miles to the northeast in Rogers County, Extension Director Donna Patterson is preparing for this summer's district horse show, though today's rain is slowing down the work.
The last show that we had in 2019, we had 100 youth participate in our district horse show and about 140 head of horses. Yeah, it's a lot of just prep and cleaning and trying to get ready for the next event.
Although it's been about 17 years since Donna was in Andy's shoes, the memories of navigating her first few months as an ag educator aren't hard to conjure up.
If I had $1 for every time I heard my secretary after our ag agent retired and I took that position, if I had $1 for every time that I heard her say, yes, a girl, I would probably have at least a good 20 or 50 bucks in my pocket. But I think with any new person, my predecessor had been here for 20 years, and so they knew him and they had a relationship with him, and it's someone new. In Extension, when it's busy, it sometimes can get overwhelming because this is the time of year where we're doing soil samples, we've got spring shows, and as a new educator, it can be extremely overwhelming. Even as a veteran educator, there's days that I'm just like, okay, wait a second. I've been a mentor to educators, and The biggest thing I see is one thing at a time. I think the biggest piece of advice is find that running buddy or mentor. There's so much value in having kind of a partner in crime of how to work this extension program.
While Andy has a few county educators she can lean on, she says Northwest Extension Area Livestock Specialist Dana Zook is definitely a stabilizing force.
Dana and I have worked together probably more than she has had to work with most new educators, and that's okay. I'm going to be a strong one in the end of it.
Andy has done a great job. She's been excited about the job. She's not been afraid to ask questions, and that's the key component to a lot of educators. They have a lot of different roles to play, and so it's understandable that they would need to ask people for help.
Though many miles and many years of experience separate Andy and Donna, a thread that ties them together becomes clear after only a few minutes of meeting with them: a love for agriculture.
I have been involved in agriculture since the day my bare feet hit the ground, and just it's kind of my passion. I think it's important. Feel my happiest whenever I'm engaging with youth and with the agriculture industry. I think it's important.
I come from very strong women. My grandmothers were both involved in the farms and ranches, and so to me, it's just life.
From both Logan and Rogers counties, I'm Curtis Hare.
Thanks so much for joining us this week. I'm Lyndall Stout, and we'll see you next time at SUNUP.